So select an aircraft. Okay. I mean, that's cool. So we got a fighter, we got a bomber, and we got a scout. But anyway, we can launch a mission and it randomizes things. And you can see that we do have controls. They're pretty rudimentary. So we got mouse. I can't tell if it's actually firing. Oh, we do have enemies over there. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Today I want to try something a little bit different. I want to do a tutorial and I want to assume no knowledge on your part. What I'm going to do is create a program in an integrated development environment called Replit that is web-based, and I've been using it a lot professionally. I find it a really useful tool because all of the development environmental stuff, all of the variables, all of that kind of stuff is just stored inside of a web browser basically, and you can share that web browser link with other people so they can, they can try out your program as well or play your game. Today we're just going to make a game. And also, and most importantly, for people with no coding experience, it has what's called Assistant 2, which is a version of Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is designed specifically for coding, and not just coding, but project coding. So we're going to make what's called an MVC or model view controller version of a program. This is very different than a lot of code you might see, which is just like, make me a Space Invaders game. You've seen me do that a lot before. That's just one big file with a whole bunch of code in it. What we're going to do today is use Assistant to create an actual project with multiple files that interact with each other. MVC is the modern coding paradigm. It uses multiple files inside multiple folders that might be under models or view controllers, right? Because it's an MVC, and also things like utilities, etc. We'll see what this thing develops. I have not made this game yet. I'm going to make it with you interactively and we will see what happens. So this is a tutorial, but also an exploration of how this all works. But anyway, I want to show you how what Andre Karpathy is calling vibe coding can actually be taken to vibe project building. And interestingly enough, I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while to show you how to do this, but Manus just came out. And Manus, if you don't know, is supposedly the first really good AI-based coding agent that allows you to do entire projects with research and everything like that from beginning to end using this AI agent. So I actually want to use this Replit tutorial as a baseline as well. So when I get access to Manus and the folks at manus.im, if you guys don't mind giving me access relatively soon, that would be fantastic. I would love that. Anyway, contact me on X if you're interested. But I want to use this Replit project as sort of a baseline to see how different, how much more we could do in Manus versus doing this stuff in Replit. Anyway, with all of that as prologue, let's go ahead. I already, of course, have a login, but I'm going to sign up. I'm going to create a new account just so we walk through the entire thing. This is replit.com. It's very easy. I'll leave a link in the description, but it's just replit.com. And I'm going to create a new account, a new free account. Of course, you can pay and you can get a lot of extras. I'll use my Dr. Know-It-All account, so I have a separate account. So it's the free one, not the paid one. I'll click continue. We'll go ahead and finish up the sign-in process here. And so I highly recommend that you do this along with me so that as I do this project, you can either do the same thing or you can do a different project. And actually, I'll be curious if folks want to let me know in the comments how yours turned out, especially if you did a similar or the same prompt, and see if you end up with something that's the same or significantly different than what I'm going to develop. So anyway, I'm going to call myself here Dr. Know-It-All. I will say for personal use, I'm going to click continue, and I'm going to do the starter packet. So limited Replit agent access, right? So anyway, this will get us started. You can see, normally you would pay $20 or $40 a month if you were actually using this for real, but at a basic level, you can try this thing out for free, and that's what we're going to do. And then of course, hopefully I won't run out of credits today doing this. Fingers crossed. I haven't used a free version of Replit in a long time, so I'm not exactly sure what the limits are. But anyway, we're going to just go ahead and do start coding. So you can see here that what we got is as soon as we do this, we have our applications, which used to be called REPLs. If you've used this before, you'll be like, where's the REPLs? That's the apps. There are no, there are no apps yet because we haven't done that. So anyway, we just want to type in here what we want this thing to do. And basically, I'm going to have it kind of recreate the War Thunder game. I've been playing that very badly. My son is very into War Thunder, so I've been trying to learn how to play it. I'm terrible at it, but I'm going to have Replit recreate in the MVC sort of paradigm, recreate the War Thunder game, and of course use some basic graphics. But anyway, I'm going to type it all in and then I'll describe it. I don't want you to watch me type it, but I'll type it all in and then I'll describe the prompt to you. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll copy and paste the prompt into the description. So if you just want to be super lazy, you can just copy and paste it, or you can copy and paste it and modify it how you want. Alrighty, and after some typing and some thinking, I have a prompt. I'm going to go ahead and read it as this thing is building, but I want to click the button to start it first. So we'll go ahead and start this process. So it says creating app, and we should see it begin to create the app and then populate it over here on the left-hand side. Anyway, I said I want to create a game similar to the popular War Thunder flight simulator game using the MVC paradigm. I want a selection of 3 planes in this first iteration of the game. And notice what I'm asking for here is a version 1.0 of this game. In other words, I want it to be, it needs to do something now, but I want it to be flexible enough to grow in the future. So we can see here that it's reviewing my message, and assistant 2 is this little, purple sort of thing, right? So that means it's using Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is great. Anyway, so would you like any of these additional features? That's the first thing it does, is it kind of asks some questions, and then you can check the answers. So let's see, replace basic 3D shapes with detailed 3D models. We can also make changes later. I don't know how it would do the 3D models. I can go ahead and check it. The big problem is I've told it I wanted to use just some basic shapes to start with, because I don't want to have to go out on the interwebs and find 3D models of airplanes. That's not the purpose of this tutorial. Of course, you could do that. But anyway, yeah, so multiplayer functionality using WebSockets, more plane types with unique characteristics, enhanced weather effects. All of these things sound fantastic. Let me think about this. I don't want to do the 3D shapes with detailed 3D models. Let me message the agent back instead, because these are actually really good questions, but I don't want us to get bogged down in this tutorial developing anything too real, because that's not the point of this. But let me think about this for a minute and respond to the agent here. Okay, so instead of checking the boxes, I'm going to go ahead and respond to it. So I'm just going to say, probably it's just going to say I have access to basic shapes. So hopefully that'll be correct. I said I want the multiplayer capability, but don't implement it yet. WebSockets is a great plan for that. And just 3 planes to start with, and enhanced weather and physics sounds great. So let's see what it says as we message this. Anyway, you can see it thinking there, and it's doing its thing. And of course, eventually it will stop asking questions. And here we go. Let's see. So it's waiting for my response again. So this is fairly common that it wants a response, but I think this is useful because it's going to create this thing for me, and I want it to create what I want, not some randomly generated thing. So I think even though I responded previously, I have to actually click this button up here. But anyway, you can see it's agreed to what I said. And now I'm going to go ahead and approve the plan and start. And you can see that it's got things like checkpoints and stuff like that. If you don't know GitHub, it actually has it creates a Git repository, and it allows you to make iterations and commits and things like that, which means you can roll it back, which is really, really useful if you're doing a real project. In other words, if you make a change that you're like, oh, that just broke everything, right? You're like, I want better weather. And instead of creating better weather, it breaks the entire system and it doesn't work. You can roll back to a previous version. So that's very, very useful. You can also see what it's doing here is creating different files here. So this is models.py. I assume it's creating models of the airplanes here. Looks like, yeah, looks like that's what it's doing. Again, if you're not familiar with coding, you don't have to worry about it, but this would be a pretty good way to learn, because you learn some very, very good coding techniques. We will see how well this works in terms of its ability to do iterative work. In other words, if it makes mistakes and things like that. You can see here that we've created main.py. Main is important for Python packages. That's what actually drives the program. That's what you initiate, right? So that's the thing. When you press run, it actually generates that. We've got app.py, we've got models.py, we've got controllers.py. So it's doing MVC. I assume that we will get the V part of the MVC in here eventually, but yeah, templates, index. Okay, so now we've got, I think this is templates would be a folder. It looks like we've got templates, and then inside of that is going to be index.html. That will allow us to run this in a web browser, so that'll be very, very cool. So this is obviously going to take a moment. While it's working on this, let me go back and read this just so you have, I'm doing this out of order, but I didn't want to waste time because I knew it was going to take a while. The HTML is taking a while. Okay, so anyway, each plane having its own strengths and weaknesses that are displayed to me in a hangar space that's displayed on startup. In other words, you go into a hangar first before you do the battle. And then a randomized landscape with hills, trees, and buildings, and in a cityscape, all or none of these, it should have been and a cityscape, whoops. All or none of these, it can exist in a given environment. I also want AI-based bad guys that I can fly against with a controller for fewer or more of them, say a slider that lets me select 1 to 100. If I select 100, I'm going to get killed very, very quickly. Some basic weather, sun, clouds, rain, snow, which are randomly generated at the start of each game. So just to change the physics. For this first iteration, please create the planes using basic 3D shapes, but create a flexible enough program that I can later replace these with modeled assets. I also want the hangar to be big enough to accommodate more planes in the future. Also build in a stub not used in this version 1.0 game that would allow me to do multiplayer, and that's why I was asking about WebSockets, etc. So anyway, that's the thing, and I told it I want it to be playable in a web browser. What this means is when I deploy this, I can have a link and it can actually be played. So that's what it's doing right now. Let's see what else is going on. So it's creating these things. So again, now we've got static.js. So it's creating some stuff in Python. It's doing some stuff in HTML. It's doing some of it in JavaScript. So yeah, oh, and CSS also. So it's doing a lot of different stuff. So you can see this is not just programming in one language. It's programming across a bunch of different languages as it needs to. I can also message the agent if I looked at this and I was like, oh, you're doing this all wrong or something, then we could, okay, so it's generating still, just wanted to make sure. But if you saw that it was doing something completely wrong, you could pause it and you could interject and say, no, that's not right. I see what you're doing is wrong. But at this point, we're more interested in just vibing with this thing and seeing what it can produce for us. But you can see how much more sophisticated this is just by looking at the number of files it's created across 3 different, well, HTML isn't a programming language, but anyway, 2 markup languages and 2 coding languages, right? CSS and HTML being markup languages, and then Python and JavaScript being the coding languages. So it's very cool that it's able to do this. It's incredible that it's able to think across all of this stuff. And people are like super enthralled by Manus right now because it can do these kinds of things. But I'm like, look at this. This is Replit allows you to do this directly inside of Replit and run it all in a web browser. The reason why this sort of integrated development environment inside a web browser is so amazing is because all of the environment crap that you have to deal with, especially with Python all the time, when you're doing Python, if you're using VS Code or Cursor or something like that, there's always all this environment stuff. And Replit is great because it's just right there, right? It just does it for you. It does it all inside its own little virtual environment. And of course, you can also take this and you can deploy it and you can have it available for other people to use. If this turns out well, I'll actually publish a link to it. I don't think that would be a problem. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure because Replit servers are development servers. So it might actually crash it if 1,000 people are trying to use it at once. So I'm not positive that I will put the link out there. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put it in the description. And then if it looks like it's crashing really bad, maybe I'll just do it for the first hour. So those of you who are the committed viewers can actually watch it and then I'll erase it. So that might be a fun way to do it. And that way you can make some comments and you can be like, yeah, the game played well. Again, that just assumes that all of this stuff is actually going to work. I have no idea at this point. We'll find out. Anyway, it looks like it's done quite a bit. So we've got games, planes, hangars, but notice that it's putting it again in folders. So we've got templates, we've got static, with the different planes, the hangar, all of that kind of stuff, which are the worlds that it's in. So the entire thing is going to be run inside HTML and CSS, and it will fire up the Python code, which actually, I don't know. I'm assuming it'll fire up the Python code first, which will then access the JavaScript code. But anyway, it's pretty fascinating that we're looking at all of this, and it has taken just 3 minutes so far to do this, right? So we're looking at not a lot of time to actually generate this code, and it's pretty impressive. Now, the one thing I don't know, and the one thing that it doesn't really tell us at this point, is how far along in the process it is. So I'm not exactly sure if it's going to create 10 of these code fragments, these files, or if it's going to create 1,000 of them or something like that. I'm assuming somewhere in between those two. But anyway, you can see, oh, cool. So we've got controls too. So that's actually good. I didn't say anything about controls, but it's probably smart enough to know that we want to use the WASD, controls for going up and down and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to probably cut here because this could take several more minutes, but I will come back when it gets done so we can actually look at the entire project as a whole once this thing is finished. All right, so we're getting some changes here. So we got Python. Okay, yeah, so it created a lot of files. Interestingly enough, the AI, which is the enemy AI, and the physics engine, those were both well over 800 lines of code. So those were substantial. This is thousands of lines of code, and it took 13 minutes. I think and it was also, by the way, you could see that it was installing an environment and stuff like that. All that crap that I said is really difficult to do with Python and everything. So, oh wow, okay. So we've got to enter enter hangar. We've got homepage loads. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff going on, and let's just go ahead and see reviewing my message. So I think that, oh, it's called Sky Combat. It gave it a name. It added a bunch of stuff I didn't ask for. I saw that it had things like sparks and flames and all sorts of stuff on the physics engine. You could see it's very well written. And of course, once it gets done here, we will actually examine the app and take a look at it in some detail here, and then of course run it. Currently, of course, we are sitting here waiting for the agent to finish doing its thing. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. It may be reviewing everything, just kind of like thinking about this. So I launched the flight sim. You should be able to see the homepage with Sky Combat. Oh, could you confirm if the page loads correctly and share your first impressions of the design? So I guess I need to put it over here. So let's see, enter homepage, enter hangar button is visible. Game features, dark theme applied correctly. Yep, sure, let's go ahead. Yes, this all looks great. Okay. And let's see what it is. So now it's thinking again. So again, this is just a screenshot. So this is very, very cool. This is all, by the way, the Assistant 2 is very new with Replit, so I haven't used it that much. Assistant 1 was very useful, but not as good. Wow. Okay. Opening a new tab to authenticate cookie-related stuff. So, okay, so great to hear. Everything looks great. I'd like to understand what you want to work on next in the project. Here are some possible areas with 3D plane model viewing and selection. Work on the physics, implement the AI opponents, add weather effects, enhance, or if you have something specific in mind. I don't know. Let's go ahead and just ask it, is it capable of playing right now? Because we should look at it right now. Okay, so I said, is it capable of being played yet? The best way to see how good it is to play it. So let's see if it thinks it can actually play this at this point. You can see up here, there we've got running, and so the actual application is running. Currently, the game isn't fully playable. We've set up the basic framework, but it needs to implement the actual gameplay functionality. Homepage, JavaScript for various game components, foundational architecture. However, we still need to connect these components together and implement the actual gameplay mechanics. The hangar page needs to be completed to allow. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead. I guess we have to do the hangar for plane selection, but let's just go ahead and skip the hangar part. Let's go ahead and do this. All right, so I told it to go ahead and focus on 2, 3, and 4, and I also told it I want WASD and QE for yaw, pitch, and roll, and of course mouse control is the primary control. So let's see what it does here. It's thinking again. So all right, so now I assume it's going to stop the game because that would be, I don't know how it's going to do the, yeah, okay. So it's basically stopped this. It's opened the template, so there's changes you can review. Reviewing my messages, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but we'll go ahead and see. I haven't done anything this complicated in Replit's new version of this, so this is actually very cool for me too. Tutorial, but also a fun exploration for me. Okay, so it's done a whole bunch of stuff, and it says it's I need to check the static controls, basically the controls file, update the game to create a working game loop, finally ensure we have a basic environment to fly in. So let's check the game file. So it's actually now going through. So it's made a plan. So this is really cool, right? You're seeing a chain of thought, like a chain of ideas of how to implement this. And if you thought about, even without regard to how you would program this, if you're not a programmer, just laying out the sort of, structure of this whole thing, what you would have to focus on, the different things you would have to create, it's a little overwhelming, right? I mean, I asked it something fairly complicated. I think War Thunder's been around for 10 years or something, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. Oh, this is useful to see. So here we can see that it created itself a, oh, those are changes, sorry. I thought we were seeing errors, but it actually, what it's doing is it's showing me, it has a commit, and since the commit, it's like deleted these lines and added these lines. So the red is like what it's deleted and the green is what it's added. So it's doing all of this. And of course, if you want to look at this, you can look at it. But again, if you're just kind of doing the vibe coding thing, you don't really have to worry about that. You can just allow it to go and do its thing and not really pay attention to it and just kind of answer yes or reasonable, answers to any of the questions that it asks you. Okay, so now it's actually reviewing what it's been working on. So finalizing the gameplay loop. So it looks like restarted the application, improved flight controls, great progress. So it's giving itself a compliment there. Let's test the game to see how it works. I'll check if there's any important components missing that might affect gameplay. And it's taken a screenshot. So it's actually doing stuff. Like it's actually starting it up, taking screenshots and everything. What should I work on? So I've added quick play. Could you click on it to test the flight simulator? So let me go ahead. I use Dvorak for my keyboard. I'm going to switch it over to US so I can use the WASD. Not sure if it'll ignore that or not. So let's go ahead and press the quick play, and and just see what happens. Failed to load 3JS library. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this into here. All right, so I'm just pasting in what the error message is. So let's see if it's able to handle that. Alrighty, so it did a whole bunch of changes and then we are back to it running again. It's really cool that it restarts the thing for you, right? So you don't even have to worry about that. So I'm gonna press quick play. Let's see if we are able to actually get anywhere in our mission now. It'd be cool if we did. Anyway, it is saying that we should probably open this in a new window, but you know, we'll see. I don't know exactly why it's taking so long for it to initialize. Be nice if it had a progress bar that actually kind of loaded or something and gave it some indication of what's going on. One thing that we can actually do here is you can always click this little plus button. It's opened this thing up called progress here. And then inside of that, it's got a web browser window. So we could also open a web browser, but we can also click a new tab button up here and we can type in console. So if you type in CON, you can probably get that. So handling signal which, so it looks like there is something funky going on with the loading mission. I think it's stuck, but the console can be useful because it can actually give you some information about what's going on. So I'm not exactly sure what all of that stuff is, but if I don't see progress in just a second, I'm going to stop it. So you can easily stop it up here with this little button up here. So we'll just go ahead and stop it. So I went ahead and copied this in, I gave it a few of these because it's obviously repeating itself over and over again. Also note that there's an Ask Assistant up here. So I see we're still having an issue with loading the 3.js. I don't even know what the 3.js bind library is. I should probably look at that. But anyway, we're taking a hands-off approach here. So what we want to do is check on this and restart the workflow and check what's happening in the Python backend to see if there are errors in the routine. So it's restarted the application. It's looking at the backend code, which I believe is what's going on here. And yeah, handling signal winch. Okay, okay. So obviously we've got something going on. I see the issue. Our game starts by using 3.clock, but this happened before the DOM. I'm blanking on what the DOM for is loaded. So it looks like it's an async problem. So let's fix this by ensuring we only use 3 after it's fully loaded. Let's modify the game. All right, so we've restarted the game here. I'm gonna go back over to my progress. That looks like a screenshot. So notice it's created these checkpoints automatically as we go. So you can always roll back. And as you scroll up here, you could always roll back to these things too. So restarted application, executed curl, Cloudflare. Interesting. Okay. I don't know that we necessarily want to see this at the beginning of our application running. I had not seen this previously, but I'm not sure if that's a positive or a negative thing going on here. Oh, I guess it's still editing here. So obviously we're getting deletions and additions here. That's the red and the green. So it's still continuing to think about all of this stuff. All right. So I love how when it kind of finishes its edits, it goes and does a screenshot of itself. So, upgrade. You've used 50% of your starter plan. Hopefully I will be able to finish this on my starter plan. Again, I have a paid for account, so I can always do this in that account, but I don't really want to right now. So I don't know, can I make this go away? There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to the console and take, oh no, okay, we got progress. And hopefully, oh, it's actually still working, it looks like. So yeah, we may or may not end up at the end of our credit plan. So anyway, so let's go ahead and click quick play and see if we can get this to actually initialize here. So console is doing the same thing it was doing previously. Can you navigate the hangar page? Oh, I should probably go and do that first. So let's go ahead and stop this. Stop it, and we'll go ahead and run it again. So you just click the green run button up at the top, and I'm going to go into the hangar now instead of into the quick play button and see if we get some, if we get the hangar, if we can look around the hangar, stuff like that. So we will go ahead and hopefully it will restart here. Okay, so an interesting thing here is that it actually has access to the console logs as well. So it actually figured out what the problem is, or it looks like it's figured it out. So it's an error during initialization, G unicorn. Yeah, okay. So anyway, this is really pretty amazing stuff. And by the way, I know I'm having to touch this multiple times, but if you were doing something simpler, it probably would require very few touches. And again, I've explicitly not hands off the coding. I'm just answering questions, and if it has an error, I'm copying and pasting the error in. So we're doing complete vibe coding here. Anyway, so it's going and still working on a whole bunch of stuff. I hope I don't use up all of my credits. That would suck because I would like to get, ooh, I've already used 6 and I don't really want to pay another $20. Don't want to like do that. So if we get stuck, we'll just stop there. The tutorial, the validity of the tutorial is to just see what the process is like, not to actually get to the end. Obviously, if you wanted to use this significantly and substantially, you just have to suck it up and pay the $20 a month. But you know, $20 isn't terrible if you're actually looking at using this to create some interesting and useful items. All right, so it has worked at it again. So I'm going to go ahead and try entering the hangar this time. So select an aircraft. Okay, I mean, that's cool. So we got a fighter, we got a bomber, and we got a scout. All right, let's go. I mean, why not just use the fighter? I'm going to have to move my head here, obviously, because I'm in the way. Oh, speed, agility. So we have some controls over, you know, we can see that the bomber probably will not be as fast. Yeah, but it's got a lot more firepower, and the scout is very, very fast. But okay, so I mean, it's got basic elements here. That's really cool. And I'm going to move myself back down here into the corner here. You can see 51 minutes so far. So you can see how long it's actually taken. I'll cut out the stuff where I've just been sitting and waiting. But you can also see up here, there's a deploy tool. So you can deploy this and that actually will create an actual link that you can share with other people. So the hangar appears to be working. Let's go ahead. I guess we'll just go ahead and select the fighter and let's go back to quick play and see if we can initialize this and actually get someplace in terms of actually fighting, flying around and fighting and everything. That would be really cool. I would consider that a huge success for this tutorial. Like I said, I had not tried to do this before. I wanted to give it something pretty complicated to do and to see if it could handle it completely without me coding it. But it looks like we are still getting stuck and I don't know. So it's listening. I mean, it looks like it's actually created something where it's got a port and it's listening and stuff, but it's just not creating that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it what's going on here. So I told it the hangar's great, love the planes, but the mission is still hanging. It's stuck on the loading mission screen. And then I said I was making a video for you guys and I'm about to run out of credits. So I'm hoping it will, you know, hop to it and get this thing fixed at least to a point where we can play something and we can, you know, have a demonstration of it actually working. So yeah, let's see where we are. I'm going to guess we're at 7. Yeah, we're at 7 out of 10. So we are going to use up our credits real fast if we don't get this thing working soon. So fingers crossed here. All right. So now you can see it's actually implemented a bunch of stuff. It's created another git commit. And I'm going to go in the hangar real quick just to make sure. Yep. So we can see the fighter, the bomber, all that good stuff. So we'll pick the fighter again. Quick play, fingers crossed. We'll actually get something. Hey, I'm seeing some progress here. So it said it was something about hiding the loading mission screen. And so it would actually show the background when it's there. Okay. Okay. So we've got Sunny. We've got a score. There are 0 enemies. And I've got my fighter. And I wonder if I can select. Nope. It looks like it's just that. So, unfortunately, I'm not really seeing anything in terms of like background screens, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not exactly sure, you know, I'm trying the WASD keys as well. So yeah, it doesn't look like we've got much going on here. So I'm actually going to take a screenshot. So let's go ahead and show this. I'll put myself in here so it'll see me. Anyway, I'm going to take a screenshot because I think I can upload that and actually tell it what's going on. All right, so I uploaded a screenshot, you know, of that, and then I said you can see that nothing's going on here. So let's see what it decides it wants to do with our remaining 2 credits that we have. So it's doing a hard-coded fallback scene. So that's cool. It's actually creating a fallback, like an initial project. Probably what I should have done given the fact that I don't have a lot of credits on this. And again, you know, I just don't want to pay for another account. Otherwise, it would be no problem. But I should have told it to create something very simple to start with and then build off that because, of course, that would be a better thing to do. But anyway, it's obviously working hard to try to get this thing up and on its feet prior to us actually losing our credits for this. I could, of course, start this in my real account and we could take a look at it. But then I'd have to start the whole thing over again and I don't really feel like it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will actually finish this thing up this time. All right, so back we go. You should either see the full game or at least our fallback plane rotating in the sky. This should definitely give you something to show your friends. Hey, friends. All right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to hopefully have something actually happen here. It would be awesome if we did. Score 0. Enemy 0. This is unfortunate. I just don't see anything. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Wow, that's a bummer. I was really hoping this thing was going to work. So while this is thinking this time, from the console logs, okay, the direct fallback is activated. The 3D scene isn't visible. Okay, completely different approach. Let's try a really simple HTML canvas-based plane. Okay, so we're going to try that. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, I want to show you how this is all organized. So if you click the little files button over here, you can see all of the files. There are windows here that you can click a plus on, and you can, of course, open up any of these things, and you can close any at any time. But if we want to, for example, look under templates, maybe under there, game.html, it will pop up in a new tab here, the HTML file for this. So you can look at this all you want to. And we could also look at our static stuff and our CSS and our JS, our JavaScript and everything. And you can see it's still working while we're doing this. So for example, the AI controller for the bad guys is all right here. So you can see many, many lines of code. I don't know, again, what this 3.min, maybe it says what it is. Oh my goodness. This is, oh, interesting. Wow. I don't know. I guess this is something it found on the interwebs. Maybe it's a way of creating the planes or something like that. So it looks like we're back to, being able to play again. So let's see what the agent has to say. We've reached our free usage limit. Oh, bummer. All right, well, let's just see. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe it will actually load up and actually operate, and we'll be able to do something here. We've got some wind. We've got some of that stuff. Unfortunately, we are just unable to make any progress. I don't know. Let me see if I can quit here. Oh, WS pitch, roll, yaw. So we actually do have, all of the controls are here, and you've got ammunition and everything. So all of that stuff is there. It's just unfortunately not showing up. So what I might do is restart this in my real account and just see if we can make progress. But the purpose of this entire thing was just a tutorial about how to do this. It's just a little unfortunate it didn't get to the point. It looked like it was very close to actually running. But again, no, nothing. I can't shoot or anything like that. Oh, maybe it's space to fire. Yeah, no, anyway, can't do any of that stuff. But you can see here that what we've got is the entire thing has been created properly, right? And I love the attached, there's a screenshot. That is so weird. I didn't even know that it actually included that as part of its history. So we've got all of this. It's got a Git repository for itself. In other words, it's got multiple versions that you can go back and look at. In fact, you can actually click a Git tab here. Yeah, so this isn't connected to my actual Git account, but you can connect it to your actual Git account if you have one. But in the meantime, you can see that initial commit, implementing this, it's got messages about what it did and the changes that it made for each one. And so you can roll back to any of these commits. So the tab thing up here is your friend. These are just, they're just that kind of a thing. And then again, if I want to, I can click deploy. I'm not sure if it'll allow me to do that. Yeah, I have to upgrade my plan to deploy. So I can't do that, right? So anyway, but, yeah, so we got really close. Unfortunately, it didn't quite make it, but I think that this is still a very valuable tutorial. The whole point of this was to show you how to create something like this. All right, so with a little bit of work on my other account, you can see the planes are not as good as the planes were in the other one, but we do have some ability to fly around. It is by far not perfect at this point, but anyway, we can launch a mission and it randomizes things, and you can see that we do have controls. They're pretty rudimentary. So we got mouse. I can't tell if it's actually firing. Oh, we do have enemies over there. It doesn't appear to be firing at all. I was hoping that we would get. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a little bit less than stellar. And of course, if I crash into the ground, mission failed. So I don't know how I defeated 3 enemies in that amount of time, but you can see that it actually did work. It actually also created a different. It's a bit of a different setup than the other one. So I recreated this from scratch. So anyway, you can see that it does actually work. And obviously to make something this complicated would require a lot more work than what I've done here. But we did get an initial thing and I didn't have to touch any code. And actually this version of it, I didn't have any errors. I just gave it a little bit of feedback and about the planes, because the planes look hideous. But anyway, hopefully you find this relatively cool. This thing looks more like a pod racer or something like that. The Interceptor does. So anyway, A lot of room to grow. I think, some 3D assets and stuff would be helpful, but it is pretty cool that we can do this much complicated work with this many complicated interactions between all of these different files and everything without having to touch a single line of code. Very, very cool. My suggestion is probably start a little bit more sedate, right? Don't go with anything quite this ambitious. Have it create something a little bit simpler, and then it should be able to generate that for you, no problem. But the beauty of this whole thing, and the reason I wanted to show this, is this assistant is very, very smart. And if you're willing to pony up $20 a month, which is not that much money ultimately, you can play around with this a lot. You can also attach it to like your OpenAI account and stuff by grabbing API keys or Claude or whatever, whatever you want to use. But you can grab API keys and stuff like that, and you can actually use large language models in association with this. There is a lot of stuff. Replit is a very, very deep IDE. It's really, really useful, and I just wanted to call that out. And I'm hoping that people will be like, yeah, this is really cool, and I want to do this. And as you can see here, if you click on these, on these actual files, you can see that the Python code, let's just see, the physics is 871 lines long. Yeah. So, I mean, it's huge, right? So it generated all of this stuff very, very rapidly. And I guarantee you, because I've tried this and played around with it before, if I just kept at it and we didn't have this problem with credits, it would actually get to the part where it actually made this game for me. So anyway, if I was using my real paid account, we would be able to make this thing work. But I think for tutorial purposes, this is quite adequate. You can see that we have controls for like home. So you can go back to your home. You can click this little button up here and see your apps, and you can see your deployments and all that stuff. So you can see we've got this flight simulator, right? And then if you go inside it, you can see that you have access to all this stuff. There's also an assistant in here. So you've got the agent. The agent actually does the work for you, what we've been doing right here. I think they used to call this Assistant 2.0. I think they just renamed it to Agent. It wasn't called that before. You also have an assistant where if you just want to pop it up, you can pop it open and you can have a quick chat. You can just be like, hey, the code isn't working the way I expected. Can you help me understand what's not working? And it will explain that stuff to you. So you can go into all of this. All of these tabs are just across the top. Once you pay for this, you can deploy it and then you can put it out on the web, and your friends can play a game, or if you have a chat bot or something like that, you can do all of that kind of stuff. So this is very, very sophisticated, and I hope that you found this a valuable tutorial and an exploration. Like I said, I was intentionally taking a risk here because I had not vetted this to make sure that this would actually work, and especially on a free credit account, but it did pretty well. It got pretty far into this process. And so you can see from this how you don't have to know coding at all in order to take a project from concept, a pretty rough concept, to a fairly sophisticated project that would take a group of humans a period of time to do, right? Even if you're an expert coder and all of this kind of stuff, it would take you a while to do all this stuff. And it's done it in, on the order of 1 hour. That's a pretty impressive feat. And again, I'm sure that with a little bit more iteration and, massaging of all this stuff, it would work. Alrighty, folks, sorry about the game not working because I really wanted that for a cool graphic for the beginning of this thing, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. I hope you found this tutorial useful and interesting. If you create any cool stuff, especially if it runs and if you deploy it, let me know in the comments below. I would love to play a game or interact with whatever your app is or something like that. So definitely let me know in the comments. While you're down there, if you don't mind liking this video, if you found it useful, that would be helpful because I don't know. This is a new thing for me. I would be curious to know if you enjoyed this video. And of course, if you want more of this kind of stuff, please do subscribe. I can see how many people subscribed on this video, so I will be able to tell if it's popular in that sense. And if it is, I will do a bunch more of those. And in the meantime, I will be back and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.